some acid, some sweetness, and some richness.
This is what you eat, but this is where it grows.
Have a sniff of that.
That's a beautiful piece of beef. Nicely aged, bit of fat on there.
We're making booze and we're having a hell of a good time.
I sit between a grower and a chef.
Is this a food? Is it a medicine?
It's like discovering colour TV after years of watching black and white.
Hello, I'm Pip Courtney, and this week, a look at that most hated of vegetables, the Brussels sprout, some black sheep and Murray Basin salt.
Well, salt used to just be a seasoning tool, but now it's a really gourmet product.
When I sort of first started my career, it was all the Maldon sea salts and the imported European stuff, and this took over in the period of a couple of years, I think. It just exploded.
Brussels sprouts have a very bad reputation in the vegetable world. But is it deserved? Kerry Staight has a taste.
In the paddock, the Brussels sprout is a sight to behold. Each bush is something of an architectural masterpiece, but its growers are under no illusion about how many view the vegetable that comes off it.
They're probably the most hated vegetable around, but we sell quite a few, so someone likes them.
And we keep planting more and packing more and planting more and packing more, and we don't seem to have got to the end of it yet.
It's certainly a vegetable that incites passion and divides opinion like no other. On the one side of this bench is well-known chef and Brussels sprout advocate Simon Bryant.
I mean, I loved them as a kid. I was a weird kid. I loved them.
On the other is a certain Landline reporter who has less fond memories.
I mean, it does have a bad reputation. Why is that? What have we done wrong?
Look, I think that overboiling is the problem. There's a point where it turns into Orwellian boiled cabbage, sort of, you know, that memory of just poverty. That's the only way.
Or is it?
It's the smell more than anything. I mean, there's three things. It is naturally bitter. You're damned if you do, damned if you don't. One of the bitter compounds in there turns non-bitter when you cook it, but one of the non-bitters turns bitter when you cook it. So you've either got to work with that bitterness and embrace it, or you've got to actually go completely against it, which I'm going to do today. I'm going to contrast the bitterness. So what I've got here is some onions that I'm just going to caramelise. It's just an onion jam with some vinegar and a bit of brown sugar. I've got a white sauce here.
Yep.
Bit of nutmeg, nothing special there.
So these are done. These are done now?
Yeah. And they're a happier colour than a raw sprout. So this nice vibrant green. And then this is the sweetness. This is a pretty simple dish of layering up some acid, some sweetness, and some richness. And then the bitterness is just one thing. And like I said, cheese will make anyone eat anything.
After 15 minutes in the oven and a garnish of sprout leaves, it's time to face my fear.
OK, well, as a previous Brussels sprout, I'll say hater, as I was. I'll start this end, shall I?
Yeah, and there should be some texture in the sprout
there is.
still. She doesn't like it, I can tell.
No, I do, actually.
Is it OK?
Yeah, I do like it. It's a lot better than the way Mum used to make it. Sorry, Mum.
Maurice Cranwell has been growing sprouts since his school days. Back then, each bush was cared for and picked by hand.
Brussels sprouts was cleaner to pick than pulling carrots and turnips and getting muddy. And, you know, Brussels sprouts suited us. There was 40 growers once that suited them too. Now it's only down to us and Samuel's.
We found that sprouts have been very good to us. They're a fairly hard crop to grow and very frustrating, but in the end, over the years, we've got rewards.
We started off growing cherries, and the neighbour started growing sprouts, and he bought a Mercedes-Benz, and we thought, oh, we better get onto this game.
As others bowed out, the two stayers spread out, and the next generation stepped in. Both families now grow around 50 hectares of sprouts and pack up to 50 tonnes a week. making them among the biggest producers in the country.
They're not a quick cash crop. They're not like a broccoli or a lettuce that you can grow over summer. So the reason we stay with it is because we've become good at it and we know what we're doing and we can probably make a bit of money out of it.
So what is so challenging about the Brussels sprout?
They're in the ground for so long, so that means that you need to protect them from everything that wants to eat the crop.
The more effort you put into them, the better they treat you. So you have to do things when they need to be done, not when you feel like it. And if you keep on top of everything, they'll treat you kindly. If not, you may as well pack up and go home.
It may be a small local industry, but with not many growers, the Brussels business has been relatively buoyant compared to many other vegetables. However, with more and more greens hitting the market, the sprout has some stiff competition.
We've got broccoli, cabbage, celery, broccolini, kale, there's bok choy, all the Chinese green. There's a lot of green veg in the supermarket if you go to look.
Look at this big one.
Which brings us to the biggest battle for the Brussels sprout. Convincing consumers there's more to this ball of vitamin C than bad memories.
One's up here.
It's an easy sell out here.
I'm so happy to live on a Brussels sprout farm.
What do your kids think?
Oh, look, my kids love Brussels sprouts. They will eat them off the plant if they're out with me in the field. They will eat them first on the dinner plate at home at night.
And how many Brussels sprouts do you reckon you've eaten in your life?
300.
300?
I don't know. Way too much.
Do you ever get sick of Brussels sprouts?
No.
What about the taste do you like?
There's this taste that I don't know what it's called, but it's a really good taste that I don't think anything else has.
If people are exposed to a Brussels sprout of the current varieties that we have and it's cooked in an appropriate way, I think that people would be more than happy to have another go at it.
The black sheep of the family is making a comeback. A small band of sheep enthusiasts is keen to breed the animals for their unusual wool, as Prue Adams discovered.
The idea for this story started with a Facebook post from a friend. She put up some photos of the ridiculously cute Valais black-nosed sheep, which hails from Switzerland. I made a few calls to see if these toy-like creatures were available in Australia. And before long, I was driving halfway across the country from my home in South Australia to New South Wales to speak to breeders who are passionate about producing coloured wool.
Good morning, sheep. So I started Coulomb coloured sheep 10 years ago.
Originally from Sydney, Melissa Henry became interested in the genetics of coloured sheep while still at school. Now she is the president of the New South Wales branch of the Black and Coloured Sheep Breeders Association, and the first port of call for enthusiasts wanting to get hold of special sheep.
There certainly are a lot of rare breeds that are overseas that are naturally coloured, such as the Jacob sheep and the Valais black-nosed sheep that we see a lot of inquiries for here in Australia. The difficulty is meeting Australian quarantine requirements, which is absolutely crucial in protecting the Australian sheep industry.
Do you go through phases like this in the association where people see something and go, oh, have to have one of those?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, certainly. We certainly do have a market for selling cute sheep for people on small acreage who are looking for a few pets. And if you're going to have a few pets, then you may as well have a few cute ones.
While cuteness plays a part in the selection of pets, the professional breeders of black and coloured sheep actually treat their segment of the industry very seriously.
Wool quality is really important. Having productive ewes that produce a long staple length. Temperament is a must for me, being a small flock, and I operate it largely on my own. So temperament is really important for me to be able to manage my sheep and to get them into the yards quite easily.
The market for naturally coloured fleece is usually through the craft trade. Spinners, weavers, felters and home knitters like to get hold of wool that has not been artificially dyed. And there has been a noticeable resurgence of interest in these old-time skills. Melissa Henry sells her fleeces directly to the public via a Facebook page and client list.
There absolutely is a market for coloured wool. My fleeces are sold to hand spinners, so individual fleeces, at $15 per kilo. So I guess compared to a lot of the commodity wool market, that is seen as quite a premium.
As adorable as they are to the uninitiated, to wool growers, the birth of a black or brown lamb is not usually cause for celebration. Only white wool can be successfully and consistently dyed, so coloured offspring are usually culled. Off camera, there are those who scoff at the breeding of these colourful animals.
Ah, there goes Black Betty, or there goes Black Sheep Bronny. And they're two names, two monikers that have been given to me by members of the White Stud Merino Association.
High on a hill outside Yass is the biggest coloured wool stud in the country.
Come on, push it. Let's have you. You two, come on, don't mess about.
Bronnie Jekyll and Mac McDonald have run as many as 600 superfine merinos in varying shades of brown, black and grey. But they're scaling back a little now as they get older. Bronnie is from a wool-producing family. When she was growing up, the genetic embarrassments, as she laughingly calls them, wouldn't have had a future.
Boom! Gone. No questions asked. No, there's a very real reason for that, and we cannot afford to have any dark or medullated fibre contamination in the Australian white wool clip, particularly in the merino wool clip, because it's absolutely tantamount to the wonderful quality of a product that we put out of white wool, that we protect that.
Under the stud name Drapid, she's one of very few coloured wool producers to sell through the mainstream commodity market.
We do follow our wool through. We're very keen to make sure that we know what our buyers want, and we have found out that the wool mainly goes over to Korea for early stage processing. So, somewhere there could be a Saudi prince wearing a suit that our wool has gone into, but by crikey, I would love to have been paid the amount that he paid for that bloody suit. Oh, look at that. Isn't that beautiful? Shibichi.
With an emphasis on low stress handling and a keen eye to what the market wants, Bronnie Jekyll is well regarded by members of both the coloured and white wool sectors. While she gets some jokey nicknames, she doesn't believe there is the same prejudice there once was.
We've had 3 or 4 different merino inspectors come out, and the sort of comments that are given to us are, well, they're absolutely great, pity they're coloured, pity they're black. But that doesn't worry us, because that suits our market.
There's room for everyone in the industry. At the end of the day, we're all about, making our own share of the profit, a dollar at home. So they find that, they might have a small property or a medium size, a large property growing coloured wool, but if they can make extra profit for themselves, well and good.
Show cooking isn't for the faint-hearted, with its strict rules and complex standards. I spoke to author Liz Harful, who's documented this mysterious art.
I love going to shows. I fancy having an excuse to go to a show for work, which is wonderful for a start. But I also love meeting the people and the extraordinary diversity of people, from children right through to, people in their 90s who are still show cooking.
Well, if you make a cake and you take it out the oven, you think is it cooked? Put it to your ear. If it's still talking to you, put it back in the oven till it stops talking. Till it stops singing.
I was looking for people who loved cooking, who were passionate about their show and had a real generosity of spirit, because I wanted not just their recipe but all of the tips that go with it, the things that they've learnt over the years, and they needed to be very generous in sharing that. So that was the ultimate criteria.
Edna O'Neill lives on a dairy farm at Mergen and was thrilled to be included.
There's a lot of younger generation coming on and they're wanting to know the ins and outs of cooking and show recipes.
And you'll be able to pick up some secrets too from other cooks.
Oh, well, what I don't know, I think I know a fair bit already, yes.
The big no-nos are skewer holes in your cake rack marks, unevenness of any kind.
Put it onto a tea towel so that you don't get the cake rack marks coming into the bottom of your cake, because it can actually detract from the presentation.
Incredible attention to detail, infinite care in everything you do. That's what show cooking is about. And it might seem like obsessive behaviour to the average home cook, but if you really want to win at the highest level and win consistently, that's what it takes.
Liz found many of the best show cooks were engineers or fitters and turners, jobs where precision is all and millimetres matter.
So for them to actually measure up a slice and make sure it's square, they do it without even thinking about it.
Now, you're a bit of an expert on the fruitcakes.
Retired dairy farmer Jeff Beattie cooked to chase away the depression that followed the death of his wife. Now he's one of the most successful bakers and preservers in the state.
So do you hang on to your recipes? Are they secrets?
I try to give it out to young people to encourage people. I don't give it out to seasoned cooks.
And Liz says Jeff's tip is a cracker.
He makes a lot of jam and he has beautiful big preserving pots, but he butters the bottom of them to make sure that the jam doesn't stick, and I'd never thought of doing that, so that's a great tip. It's made me a better baker. I thought I knew a reasonable about cooking when I first started this, but I'm so much better now from following those tips.
I mean, it's like having 50 grandmas.
It is like 50, yes. It's exactly like having 50 grandmas standing over your shoulder. One of the show cooks in here is quite young. Tamara talks about the fact that she can hear her grandmother's voice in her ear when she's making her ginger nut biscuits.
There are three things show cooks are passionate about: sponge cake, fruit cake and scones. Liz's hardest decision was picking one person to represent this much-loved country staple.
It's a slightly different version of scones, and they're very light and fluffy, beautifully textured. They pass the test of both baking and tasting. And I decided too that Dorothy was the perfect cook to represent them, because she has been cooking for mustering camps on the family grazing property for many, many years, and she would have made thousands of scones in her time. So it seemed a very fitting person to have with the recipe.
Liz Harful no longer fears show cooking is a dying art, and hopes renewed interest won't just drive cookbook sales, but prompt people to ask great aunts and grandmothers for their treasured recipes before it's too late. Too much salt has been a continuing problem in the southern Murray Basin. But now that waste salt is being turned into a premium gourmet product, as Tim Lee reports.
10 kilometres north of the Murray River at Mildura lies the Morecrong Basin, a natural salt marsh and a haven for birds. It's also a valuable source of salt. So valuable, in recent years, it has won worldwide acclaim.
I suppose salt used to just be a seasoning tool, but now it's a really gourmet product.
When I sort of first started my career, it was all the Maldon sea salts and the imported European stuff, and this took over in the period of a couple of years, I think. It just exploded.
And this is what's helping stave off environmental damage. This highly saline water, pumped from bores beneath the Murray River, is part of a salt mitigation scheme. Each day, this system removes about 200 tonnes of damaging salt that would otherwise travel downstream.
This being on the New South Wales side, this is the resulting end of the bores. The water comes out, and that's the same salinity as seawater. And this comes out here and then migrates its way up towards the north, where we then turn this waste into products that we can sell. Our salt factory takes over, makes the mineral salts, which we see the pink salt, swim pool salt, hide salt, a lot of different things for industry.
Evaporation during summer makes the brine ponds even more vivid, and when they're dry enough, a special harvester skims off the hardened crust. The higher grade salt goes to the company's factory in Mildura, where in large vats it slowly crystallises into large pinkish flakes. It's then delicately dried and packaged. The salt from Moorkwong has no additives, but it is naturally loaded with minerals and elements such as magnesium and calcium, and that's what makes it a distinctive pink colour. Its colour has got it noticed around the globe.
Look, the Murray River Gourmet Pink Salt, that was a brainchild of Duncan and Jan. They've persisted with it through the early years, but now it's just gone from strength to strength over the last maybe 5 or 6 years. It's become known as a really top-end brand in Australian gourmet food. And the pinkness and the taste and the environmental story and the texture, they all come in together.
For years, the Thompsons relied on selling their gourmet salt at fairs and markets. The couple is still promoting their products in person, such as here at the Perth Food Fair. Now, such is the demand for the gourmet table salt that the Mildura factory is about to double in size. In recent years, their pink salt has won dozens of awards here and abroad. Notable customers include several international airlines.
With the gourmet salt, we're getting more orders from all around the world. We've had to reject customers. We've got a lot of things that we can do. We've had Chinese here wanting to buy because it's clean, green. They want us to export food-grade salt straight over there. So I've got no fear at all to say that there's a market for anything we produce here.
Having a diversity of products has been crucial to the company's growth. Alongside the salts and minerals for industrial use, there's a sweet sideline: chocolates. The Mildura Chocolate Company operates as a purveyor of fine chocolate. Handcrafted products may seem to be a little labour-intensive until you realise the enterprise is far more than a sugar hit. As an adjunct to the Christie Centre, a not-for-profit disability support service, it provides valuable employment.
The number one and only reason that we exist is to provide employment for our supported employees who otherwise might find themselves with something, with nothing to do during the day, or in another form of employment that's not as fulfilling, and they really, really love and really are so proud of the products that you see, So it's great. What a place to work.
For the Thompsons, it's a way of giving back to the Mildura community, and sweetness and salt go together nicely.
The pink salt is a really sweet salt, and it's got a real crunch about it, so it matches our really finely structured and textured dark chocolate really nicely. Neither of them override the other. They enhance each other. You know, people are really quite surprised that you can have this really balanced chocolate and then you get these kicks of these, you know, that beautiful pink salt.
The joint venture has given the 5-year-old charity a much-needed boost. The latest product is a salted chocolate sauce.
So here's a sauce.
Well, we want to take more of this to the food shows.
Yep. The bonus is that they've got such a great name in the market already. I mean, you see it on all those great big chef shows, you know, and it's sitting there and they put in a bit of pink salt. We're piggybacking, you know, at the same time as having this great partnership.
High-profile chef Jim McDougall certainly thinks so. The restaurateur, a proud Mildura resident, is a big fan of pink gourmet salt. But he also puts to good use large lumps of unprocessed or rock salt.
So essentially, this is the wet natural rock, and it's quite hard there, so you want to scrape it down to where that crust becomes quite firm. I like a bit of an organic look. It doesn't have to be too pretty for me, I don't think. I want it to look like it's just came out of a salt lake, basically.
Jim McDougall uses these salt rocks to cure meats, such as kangaroo.
So essentially, it's cooking without heat, using Murray River salt. So as the moisture goes into the salt cooks the kangaroo. Cooking at the table with Murray River.
For diners, such innovative cooking is quite an experience.
They've never seen anything like it before, honestly. Anything interactive, I find, on a menu creates, you know, this great sort of sense of wonder. And the idea that they can actually leave it on longer to change the texture, it's all in their hands. They love it. They love it. They really do enjoy it. And at the end of the day, it tastes really, really good.
Next Friday on A Taste of Landline, the miracle plum.
Is this a food? Is it a medicine? Yeah, what is it? It's wonderful.
And what lies beneath a spectacular underwater world.